Yeah. When I see Talladega Nights, all I think about is Princess Diana, you know.
Who else would you
just
think of?
Nailed it. The entire storyline. It's a shot-for-shot remake. You know?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's
Pretty
how I
much,
saw it.
Yeah.
6 pound, 8 ounce baby Jesus. I see myself wearing a tuxedo shirt, front row of Leonard Skinner.
I'm here to party.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Check out our Patreon for our favorite movie reviews. And now, broadcasting from Churn, that guy is Dr. Grand Slam. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
I'm here, and I'm on time this week.
About goddamn time.
Thank you, everybody. So I did apologize in the Patreon. I'll do the brief version here. My mom was worried about me because she was like, what the hell? Why is he late to the show? Is everything okay? I was fine. I was in the building the whole time. At the time, I had a patient crisis, and I needed to just kind of work the problem. So I didn't want to delay the show. Jacob and Nick started without me.
Jim is as okay as he was prior.
Yeah.
You're not okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, there you go.
You're as okay
on
as
the
you've ever
bell
been.
curve of Jim. I'm
Jim
in the
is
average.
largely unchanged.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm in the same. Yeah, exactly. I'm in the little cluster of dots that pretty much typifies my reality. But everything went fine. That patient's completely fine. The problem was solved, but it required a lot of attention, and it was it took
You're just
a lot
saying
out of
all
me.
this to make yourself sound important.
Thank you. Well, I don't like
Just
to bring
admit that
this
you
up.
don't know how to change a tire, and we'll move on.
Ah, God. That's one of my big fears in life is like
Having to
being in a
change a tire?
situation. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yes. Like
Come on. You know
I
how to
probably
change a
have it
tire.
written on a list of like top fears. I make that every year. Like I refresh my list of top fears.
Bears.
Bears is up there. Bears is definitely in the list.
This year, changing a tire
Yep.
surpasses the Bears.
What
Dude.
about bears
Changing a
while you're
tire's
trying to change a tire?
awful.
Or Bears changing your tire for you.
Oh, that's right.
I called AAA and instead of a tire guy, they said bears.
No, that is a thing. So, like, my entire adult life, I have insisted on having AAA. And then once I started leasing vehicles, I had roadside assistance. Then I finally let go of AAA, and then I have roadside assistance. But no. That is...
So you've never changed a tire?
But it's so much faster and
Technically, I
easier to
have.
change a tire.
Well,
What do you mean?
that's not
What do you
true.
mean? Yeah, sure it
Technically,
is.
That's
Because,
not true at all.
If you call AAA or roadside
Yeah, you're
assistance,
gonna be waiting for
you have to
45
wait for
minutes.
them to come to you.
No. Let's go back over the word you said. Easier. It is much easier to sit in the air-conditioned vehicle with the radio on and wait for somebody to come do it than it is to get out and do it.
If you don't count having to wait, then yes, it's easier doing it that way.
Here's
I
why-
count my time as being
Yes.
more valuable than $0.
Yes.
All right.
Agreed.
I have 2, maybe 3 experiences trying to change my own tires.
Yeah, how have you technically changed a tire?
I'm very curious about that word.
Here's my tale of woe. All right, so
Okay.
I feel like this is somebody else's
I
tale
was
of woe
in-
that Jim was involved in.
I was in my early 20s.
Whoa.
Yeah.
sorry.
Whoa.
Go
It
ahead.
is a tale of woe, so that was an
yeah.
appropriate response.
Yeah.
I was in my early 20s. I had a beat-up Nissan pickup truck, which we've talked about on the show,
Yes.
First Cars, that was mine. And little wheels, the whole business. So had a flat.
Little bitty wheels.
Little teeny tiny wheels.
Like roller skates.
Yeah.
Had a flat. Nobody had ever taught me how to change a tire. And this was before we had smartphones with you could just pull it out and have YouTube. So, like, if you were going to watch how to do this, you had to go sit at your desk, watch a video, or I don't even know that. I mean, YouTube probably existed. I don't know that that was, like, the go-to way to solve problems, though. So if you read instructions back then. This is what you printed MapQuest. So it was that kind of era. Anyway, so I
How
go.
hard is this? You jack up the car, you take a tire
let
off,
me
you put a new
explain.
tire on.
Yeah, let's talk
He'll
about
find
that.
a way to make it difficult.
Yes. So I'm like, all right, what do I do? So I
He jacked up the opposite side of the
Right.
car.
here's what happened. So I get out in the parking lot of my apartment at the time, and I got this flat, and I'm like, all right. So I go through
You
my
single?
What?
Are you single at this point?
No, I'm married at the time.
Okay.
So I go through the I have a trunk, like behind the bench thing, and it turned out I had a jack, and I was like, sweet, I'm equipped to do this. And then I knew that I had a donut.
He's not equipped to do it.
I had one of these little
He had
donut
the equipment
tires.
to do it. Jim was not equipped to do it.
I was aware that there was a donut tire
Okay.
under the truck somehow.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you had
Mounted
to
up under
turn
the
a
bed.
thing to like get
Yep.
it to come down. So I get that thing down. I'm real proud of
By the
myself.
way, changing a tire on a pickup truck, I
Yeah.
will say, getting the spare tire down
That's the hardest
is
part.
the most difficult part.
Luckily,
Yeah.
that was the only part that I somehow knew how to do.
Oh,
And I
good.
think I had witnessed somebody do it. And
Okay.
it was like the same pole that you're going to somehow utilize on the jack.
Yep.
You're also going to shove underneath this truck, and there was a little spot, and you
Yep.
put it in there, and you wiggle it, and it comes out. So I knew how to get that thing
Mhm.
down. Check. I'm like, all right, I'm in business.
I have the tire.
So I go through my history, my memory records of everything I know about changing a tire.
Mhm.
And 100% of my memory was episodes of the Flintstones, during which Fred Flintstone changes his tires utilizing usually a dinosaur and pulling them down, and the neck goes up, and they lift up the thing, and then things happen.
And then the jack falls down and he goes, well,
And so I'm
Yeah.
mostly mentally thinking, this is what I'm going to do. So I get out the jack, and I look at the truck, and I'm like, huh.
now what?
Where do I put this? Like, which part of the truck is the part that you can lift up? So I'm
yeah, you
like,
put it on the outside. You put it on the. Yep.
yep.
Ah.
So I'm like,
You didn't
huh,
put it under the chassis.
I guess I'll put it over here by the wheel
Oh,
because here's a
no.
wheel.
Sure.
And so here's this fender thing. And like,
I hate to say it, but I get that. I get
yeah.
this.
And so I'm like, oh, the fender thing is flat. And like, it's right next to this wheel that's flat.
Mhm.
So I'll just put this thing underneath and I'll jack it up and I'll get underneath this aluminum stuff and I'll just lift up this one little corner.
Yep.
And then it'll be a little bit off the ground and then I'll unscrew it
You're
and
just gonna
I'll
lift
do
up
the
the
donut
corner.
thingy and then I'll lower it back down. That, it turns out, is not a situation that physics wanted to agree with that day.
Correct.
right.
So
There's a spot
a
under there for
very
that jack.
bad situation happened where I effed up my whatever that is, that panel thing,
Yep.
fender thing, pretty good.
Yeah.
And it also did not like being bent out of shape. So all that tension
Yeah. Believe
built
it
up
or not,
into this
that's not
jack.
supposed to hold the weight of the
That's
entire.
not
And
load
it
bearing.
didn't just
Yeah.
go ahead and crumple like an aluminum
No.
can either.
I am surprised
It
by
fought
that.
back.
I would have thought that it would have crumpled a little bit better.
It did not. It did not
Ah.
crumple. So it fought back pretty good. This is a good old metal body,
Yeah.
little beater truck. So
Yeah.
it held on.
All right.
And so this
Didn't
thing's
fiberglass.
going, and I'm like slowly lifting this thing up and noticing this tension, and like the car's not lifting, but like there's a lot of sounds happening. And you know, whenever you're tuning an E string on your guitar,
Yeah.
and you're like,
And it starts to scream.
and it gets a little high, like, and you have that little shiver up your neck where you're like, it's gonna pop.
Yeah.
That is how I felt, and that is exactly what happened. Somehow, the twisted metal-y thing that I had created popped the jack out, which flew at me, and the whole thing came crashing down with a big sound and scared the shit out of me. It hit me. It hurt
I believe
me.
literally.
I didn't know what to do. And then I called AAA, and they came out and changed the
So
tire.
you didn't technically change a tire.
That was
Yeah,
my first try.
exactly.
That was my first
Okay.
try.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Years later, I had worked up the courage to give it another crack. This time, I'm driving down from LA to Vegas, and I'm going through that dreaded desert pass from like Baker to like Vegas. So, like, you've gotten through Barstow.
You're out there.
You're in the middle of effing nowhere. This is mid-July.
Yeah.
It is hot.
It's daytime.
As balls. Yeah, no, absolute sun right above your
Yep.
head. You like the shivery gas fumes coming off the road. Dangerous heat.
As
okay?
soon
The-
as you
the
get out of
vultures flying
yeah, I was
ahead.
gonna say as soon as you get out
Vultures,
of the car, vultures
Yes,
appear.
yes, absolutely. So
There's
I
a cow skull there
Yep.
for some reason.
I was in a hurry and I stupidly was speeding, which I always laugh at tourists who come here and speed on our highways when it's July and then they all pop their tires and on the side of the road you see these endless rows of cars with shredded tires. That's what happened to me. The tread melted off of the tire. The tire did not pop.
yeah, I've seen
The
that.
tread melted
Mhm.
off. It hit its melting point to where the glue came out.
We live here too.
So that happened. So everything's flopping around, dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Pull over, middle of the heat, got to do something, calling for help. They're like, hey, we can come tow you, but like where this is the Barstow spot or whatever, Baker, I think was the closest
Mhm.
one. We can come get you, but like it is ass expensive. And I had no money. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. So I figure, okay, this is a different car. It's an SUV. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get in here. It was my father-in-law's SUV. And so, like, I find the tire, and I actually got in there, and now this time, though, I didn't use a jack. So because this thing was like the donut.
You just lifted it with your
Yeah,
mother
it's
bear
like,
strength.
Did you have like
I don't know, maybe-
25 friends? that
Maybe I
just-
did. I think that my wife figured out how to use the jack.
You
or
definitely
something.
used the
You think
jack.
I did? Okay,
Yeah,
then
I
a jack
don't
was
think
You
used.
Here's
didn't
the new-
change the tire
Let's say
without
this.
Did you use a? Did
I
you
don't
use the,
think
a
I
different
did
jack?
the jack. Yeah, no, it was a different car. So like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you changed the tire, there was a jack involved.
okay, then
Yeah.
then it got jacked, but I don't remember doing that part. But maybe I did. Maybe I blocked it out because of all the trauma. But so then I did ultimately use the wedge
Lug
or
wrench?
the T-shaped wrenchy thing, and I spun off
Right,
all the lug
yep.
nuts. I pulled off the thingy.
The
put
easy way to
the
remember the
spare
name
on
of the
there.
lug wrench is it does the lug nuts.
There it is. And
Yeah.
so then I got the thingy tightened back on, and I put the spare on. I got to Baker, and then they changed the tire or whatever they do.
They fixed
They're
the other
magic.
tire. Or,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did something. I mean, I think the other one was beyond repair. I mean, I don't know.
also, they replaced the tire.
I think they gave
Yeah.
me a new tire. So I guess I did change a tire. But from these two, and oh, there's pictures of me trying to deal with this thing because it was a big ass SUV tire. It was like 130, like in the sunlight. I am absolutely dying. And so like it was absolutely miserable. I got injured like 3 times doing this. I was
Oh, I
wearing like
believe that.
flip flops and like yeah. So like I got wrecked.
I have had to change a tire in flip flops
Yeah.
before, and it sucks.
Unfun.
I've had to do it in a suit.
Oh, yeah, I've had to do it in
that's
suits.
rough.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
No,
rough.
that's
So those experiences have left me with a catastrophic fear of having to change my tire in any situation, which is why I have roadside assistance.
There was
Free
one
plug
time
for AAA.
There was one time that SJ and I were driving, and we were on a trip, and so it was one of those things. Like, we got a lot of time to kill, so we'll just talk about anything.
yeah.
And she was like, "I've never changed a tire." I said, "Really?" And so we just start talking through how you change a tire.
Okay, you're just explaining it.
Yeah. And she's asking questions. I'm like, yeah, you do this, and then you do this. In the mid conversation, tire blows.
Oh,
my
no
God.
way.
What are the fucking
And so,
odds?
like, we pull over, and I was like, and like, it blew, and we both heard
Wow.
it, and it's like, it's flopping. And she looks at me and goes, did a tire just blow out?
Jacob,
It's like-
SJ is a witch.
I was like, I believe it has. And we pull over, and like,
I don't know how it's taken you this long to
tire
realize
is shredded.
Oh my God, she is definitely a witch.
And so she got to see how to change a tire.
Did you
Oh,
do it
I
for
thought
her?
I thought
Well,
this
she-
story was going so
She
far.
Oh.
assisted.
I thought you were going to say, and then she learned,
and then I
she
made her
did.
get out and
Yeah,
do it, and
that's
she
how-
popped it with her damn powers.
Yeah.
She clearly did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, no, obviously.
That's way too coincidental.
Yeah.
I mean, your wife is lovely and a very wonderful person.
As you
Clearly
would say about a witch.
Yeah. Clearly a witch who knows how to dupe everybody. She ain't going in the lake. She knows the deal. Wow.
Yep.
Well, so anyway, that's on my list of fears, and that's why. So Jim is terrified of having to change a tire. I don't want to do it. To this day, I'm not confident I know where to do the jack. I don't know where the hell it goes.
I'm going to go outside right now and pop Jim's tire.
Yeah, I promise you, if I had to change a tire, the very first thing I would be doing is sitting on YouTube and rehearsing it and making sure I knew what to do. But dude, changing a tire in Vegas in the heat is no joke. I mean, that is like the inclement weather of doing it like Chicago in a blizzard. Like it is serious weather.
No, it's much better doing it in this than it is in
Yeah,
like
that's
in a
probably
blizzard or
true.
something.
that
Yeah,
is true.
because
you
it's just
can't
hot.
Use your hands, but
It's
yeah, you
just
can't
hot.
get
Well,
on
and
the
the
floor.
other thing
you burn
too,
your
like
skin on the floor.
I mean, if we're talking, but if you're talking like doing it in the snow, then you got to deal with like the pack on the snow.
You're
and,
digging
like,
shit
Oh,
out
there's a
and
lot,
like
yeah.
finding
And
a
then you've got
level
ice
spot. Yeah.
and
Oh,
shit.
boy,
You don't
yeah.
want to.
No, it's just hot here.
Do you still jack the car,
Yeah,
but
you
on
have
the
to.
ice or on the snow, which
I'm-
makes it much harder because it probably goes down a few. Dang, man, that's
I'm making a note here of list of Jim's fears for
Yeah,
future
yeah.
episodes.
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah, yeah.
I really want to dig into this.
put it into the
more.
wiki. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure that I've. gone
Unfortunately,
over a ton
we've
of
used all our time we have today.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Thanks everybody. We've covered all the questions that we're gonna cover.
We're not in the Patreon
is-
section. We're in the actual show.
I know.
I kind of forget about that.
Yeah, I know.
already.
Yeah. The music hardly phases me anymore. I don't even know what's going on. We do have some great questions, so we're going to make
Unfortunately,
sure.
we can't get to
Yeah, we don't have any time. We've gone over my haunting fear of changing tires. First question is a big one here: child's gender identity and alcoholic potential. Hey guys, Thera producer Cindy Ash writing in. I wanted to send in a voice message for your 200th episode and never got around to it. I'm so sorry. So here
You
is
can
a
still send one in for the 214th episode.
yeah, just send it in. We'll play it. Like we're not above playing it, so we just like to be complimented, Cindy.
Yeah.
It's fine.
we never grow tired of that.
No, there's no limit on this. I mean, you can just send it for this episode. So here is a message now instead. This podcast is my #1 podcast that I not only listen to on a regular basis, but the only one that I'm a patron of. I appreciate the advice you've given me in the past and helping my marriage out with great advice when we weren't able to access a marriage counselor. You guys are awesome.
Well, thank you.
So awesome. I have another question regarding a soon-to-be 12...
everybody gets one.
Yeah, you get one. No, you're a therapy producer. Send them in. You get top of the list. You don't even have to wait. You get the express lane. You pay for the show, so I think that's fair. I have another question regarding my soon-to-be 12-year-old child. My husband, John, and I have 3 kids. How do you feel about the names?
Let's skip the names.
Let's not do the names.
Oh, the kids' names? Yeah. They're the kids.
Yeah, let's skip the names. So we'll say one who is almost 4,
Okay.
one who is almost 8, and one who is almost 12.
Okay.
The oldest has been going through major changes over the last 2 years. This daughter has changed interest and style like 4 times since 10 years old.
You said this is the oldest, and how old is the oldest?
Oldest is
12.
12.
Okay.
And writer is saying oldest has changed style and
Sure.
routines a bunch and interests since 10. And since 10 years old. And so when oldest told me that she wanted to be referred to as he and him pronouns and go by a boy's name, I thought it was just a phase. And to be clear, I have no issue with someone being trans. My child knows my views are very much progressive. But with him/her, I never saw any signs of her not being a girl. And to be fair, I only have one personal experience with somebody being trans, and it's my best friend's kid who's 9. My daughter, at the age of 3, told my friend that she wanted to be called a boy's name and dressed like a boy, and stuck with that. Oh, her daughter. Okay, so yeah. So writer's
Right.
saying the only friend I have in the situation...
That's the writer's experience.
Yeah, exhibited signs at 3 years old. Continuing. So I thought my daughter was going through a phase. She told me she was bi like a year ago, and I was totally fine with that. I'm also bi and have been since I was her age. But now it seems serious, and I worry that she's getting a lot of info from things like TikTok and YouTube during a very emotional time in her life. She's been in therapy on and off for 3 years for anxiety and depression, and a lot has happened since we moved here to this state across the country. My husband took this hard, and we didn't agree initially on how to handle it. My idea was not to fight it, just be all in. Since taking that approach, my daughter has become more depressed and withdrawn. She's had bouts of suicidal ideation, which she's been in therapy for. But since coming out as trans to her therapist, now she doesn't want to go to therapy anymore. Her therapist took the "I support you, but refuse to acknowledge your pronouns and new name" approach, and thought she needed a little tough love. I
Oh.
disagreed with that approach, and we are not returning to that therapist.
Okay.
Last concern, I found an empty beer bottle in her room. My heart dropped. My husband and I are both in recovery. I started drinking at 15 years old. My first beer was around this age. I feel like I'm looking at myself at 12 years old. Self-isolation, withdrawn, interest in dark music, and wanting to experiment with alcohol. She told me she wanted to vape, but couldn't find one at home. We are former cigarette smokers, and now we vape instead. Should I share my experiences with drugs with my child? When is a good age to share these experiences? Could the trans thing be a phase since she was kind of girly before this? I'm so afraid of coming home and finding out that she's hurt herself or she's been drinking. Should I not keep alcohol in our home? Sorry this is so long, guys. We're trying to find a new therapist, but living in the state that we do and with the insurance that we have, there's a lack of options in our area. It's hard to find somebody. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Therapy producer Cindy Ash, and Cindy's pronouns are she and her.
Great.
Thank you, Cindy. So, where do you want to start? What topic?
Why don't you take on the alcohol stuff and I'll talk about identity stuff? You want to split
Sure.
it up that way?
I think my thought is, I mean, if you're concerned that she may be getting into alcohol at this age right now, it doesn't make any sense to not talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you kind of have to.
Yeah.
And I think sharing your experiences could be good, and not to do it in a way that is kind of threatening to her, but more in a way of like, look, I get it. I understand this was kind of my history and it led me down this really negative path. And so I think that could be very helpful to hear her, for Cindy to be able to share that.
Let me play devil's advocate on that for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I have a mixed feeling on that. There are some times that I worry, and I don't have any data on this. This is just talking it out, right? But sometimes I worry that kids, it almost gives them social permission now. It's almost like, hey, everything that you could possibly do and screw up, and even harder things than this, I've done all those, and hey, don't do them. And
Right.
sometimes I think that accidentally creates an open door for the child where they're like, oh, so you've just mapped those for me. Like, now I know how far I could go without you being able to like judge me or something. And I don't know if that's the way it all shakes out, but sometimes I get a little nervous. Like, does that accidentally create not permission, but almost a counterexample that you're hoping they don't follow, but you've also kind of just told them I did this. And
I see that point.
but then honesty's probably healthier.
Yeah, I see the point, but I think the other thing though too is to not talk about any of that when it sounds like there's something already going on.
Yeah.
Then now I don't think that would change the outcome of the situation.
And honesty and full disclosure aren't the same thing.
That's a good point.
You don't have
right.
you don't have to tell your kid like every dark horror story.
And I
of-
probably
of
would
your
recommend that you
usage.
don't.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
But I
Keep
mean
it
that,
where they're at.
yeah.
You know.
But I'll tell you something. I grew up thinking about alcoholism as a switch that would flip if I had too many drinks.
okay.
I had this thought when I was young that if I have more than X number of drinks in my lifetime,
Yeah.
a switch will flip inside of me and boom, I'll be an alcoholic.
Okay.
And that, of course, is wrong.
Right.
Not
right.
necessarily.
Well,
You're not as wrong as you
No,
think.
but you know what I mean.
An
Yeah, yeah.
oversimplified
It's
view.
that's
of,
exactly it. It's
Yeah.
very much an oversimplified view, and some people
Yeah.
have the predisposition for it, and there's genetic markers and
It's
all
not
of
as
these things.
arbitrary as
That's exactly
you've
it.
hit it. Bing.
That's
you know,
exactly
like,
it.
now we're done.
I had this thought in my head that if I drink more than 100 beers,
you get drunk once
in my lifetime,
It's gonna happen.
right?
Yeah.
Then I'm in. Which, yeah, I mean, like, and so I think that's my point, Cindy. Is I think that it's not a terrible thing to talk about. You know, you might have the right genetic coding
Yeah.
inside of you that this could be a problem. And you know, I love you, and I'd like for this to not be a problem for you, and I'd like to deal with this now.
The way that I've always explained it, because I used to do a family group, it was every Tuesday night. I did it for several years, and we would often get people
Asking that question, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who are just like, this is bullshit. They just need to stop doing it. It's a behavior and blah, blah, blah.
Sure, yeah.
And I really have to explain, like, no, we know that there is a genetic component to it.
Right.
There's a genetic predisposition. So in a lot of ways, it's very similar to heart disease.
Right.
Where you've got environmental factors and you've got behaviors, you've got choices that you do, but then you
Right.
also have a genetic predisposition to something.
Right.
So the way that I always looked at it is kind of similar to the way that you described it, where I would talk about it as in, like, if you were to imagine alcoholism, like if you're pouring water into a cup, when the water overflows, then that's kind of when you cross that threshold into a substance use disorder. Okay. The way that I always explain it is you pouring water in there is your lifestyle, your choices.
Mm-hmm.
But the size of the cup that you start with is your genetics.
Interesting.
Okay.
So anybody can get to that threshold or past that threshold for
Right.
alcoholism or substance use disorder.
Right.
But it all starts with your genetics as to what size of cup
and it's
you start with.
habituals. It's not like if you're
But-
predisposed to heart disease, it's not like the 100th cheeseburger killed you.
Exactly.
It's like no, years of the same
It's
lifestyle
right.
did that.
But that
yeah.
may be a good way to explain this to your child. To be like, look, unfortunately, both myself and your father
Yeah.
have this.
Well, let me take it from there because that's my history. That's how I dealt with this. So if you shake my family tree, just a bunch of drunks fall out. That's the whole program. That's all we got. And so the parents
Drunks and monkeys.
drunks and monkeys and bats. And so one side of my
It's a country
family
song
tree,
if I've ever heard one.
it just wrote itself, really. I
Yeah.
think we just got the chorus. So one of my parents, I guess it's hard to stay ambiguous when my mother is a character on the show, so it's but I don't want
You
to put
could
people's
restart
business
this
out
and just
there.
say a family member.
Yeah, okay.
That's too much editing. We're not going to do
Yeah.
that.
No, I'll just say it like this. My father came to me. He's comfortable with this story. My father came to me as a kind of middle school aged kid, and he said, son, we in our family, we have an illness, and he said it's something that's gone up and down the family tree, and we have to be extremely careful with alcohol. And I was, as a kid, I didn't really understand it. I didn't, wasn't even talking to friends that were drinking or anything like that. But he's like, as you grow older, they're going to start having this at parties and stuff like that. And I'm begging you, please don't drink it because it's going to hurt you because I know who you are. You come from me. And I was like, okay, Dad. He's like, but I'm not telling you not to drink for the rest of your life. I'm asking you, will you make me a deal? He said, I would like to buy you your first beer at 21 years old. It would mean a lot to me. It'd mean a lot to your grandfather. It'd mean a lot to your grandmother, to feel like we protected you from this curse that's destroyed so many of our lives. And it was presented to me in a profound way. Some might say, gosh, that's a lot of pressure upon a kid, but like it was done in, I think, a very healthy way. I mean, I'm biased. I feel
In a loving way.
it was very loving, and it was his earnest truth. Everybody's parenting the best they can with what they've got. And so, I saw the tears in his eyes, and at a young age, middle school, I was like, okay, Dad, I hear you. I take this seriously, and I will try my best to honor that. And he's like, and he wouldn't put pressure on me. He'd say like, but if you do, call me, I'll rescue you. I won't think less of you. But, I just want us to take it seriously. So anyway, I didn't have any alcohol. So I went to high school, did the parties thing, and I wouldn't drink. And, like people would say, oh, get Jimmy a drink or whatever. And I'd be like, oh, I can't, guys, I have alcoholics in my family, and, I just take it really seriously. Everybody respected that. Everybody was super kind about it. Like, oh, no problem, man. Have fun. You're the DD. So it was great. So then I was 21 years old, and I did. I had my first beer with my dad. He bought me a Michelob Ultra. I think he was trying to make sure I wouldn't like it. And it was very effective. I was like, oh, is this what all the fuss was about? I'm good. So, I didn't have another beer for, a year after that. Because, this stuff's shit. So I was not into it.
You should have got you, Schlitz or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad...
Then we could at least respect you.
Yeah. So for the writer in this case...
An old
Mad Dog
Milwaukee.
2020.
Yeah. For Cindy Ash, what... In my story, my parent did level with me, didn't give me details, didn't say, here's all the crazy times I did. And I'll tell you what, even in rehabs, we want people to own that they have the problem, own that they want the recovery, and teach others, here's how I stay healthy. But one of the things we forbid in rehabs is what we call glorifying. Because a lot of people will start to slip into their old stories, right?
The war stories.
They're telling the war story.
yeah.
One time I was X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And that's not the spirit of recovery, right? Now you're celebrating it. You're one-upping. So, I wouldn't want to go into any kind of contours of telling the old tales, but I would I'm open to that idea of approaching it how my father
Oh,
did.
absolutely. And I agree with that. I like the idea of just saying hey, you need to understand that you're at greater risk than your friends are
Right.
of
Yeah.
this becoming a problem.
If you
But
hear
also,
about others doing this,
yeah, but
understand
also
you're at a
saying
different place.
that doesn't mean that it will happen.
Right.
Because you don't want to send the message of there's nothing you can do.
There's
you're
not a
going
ticking
to become
bomb.
an
It's not
alcoholic.
destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need to be especially aware. You need to pay more attention to this than a lot of your friends are going to pay attention
I love
to
that.
It.
That's
Yeah.
that's both sides. I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so I think we're all in agreement. It's a good thing to approach, tell the truth, but be measured.
Yep.
Okay, so we have had lots of writers over the years of this show. Even I believe one segment that we did on Patreon where somebody came in and asked questions directly over Zoom. And I don't even remember what episode that was, but it was a very similar situation. And, it's a tough one because on one hand, I think that we all have seen as we have allowed folks the freedom to be themselves, and the trans community has stood up and had a voice. One of the things that became very obvious very quickly was how much abuse and neglect and pain the community has been through. And so I think that all of us in reaction to that took a position of, hey, we need to be really thoughtful about how we're responding to this as soon as it shows up. And there's a lot of delicacy that I think a lot of people had as an appropriate reaction. But at the same time, as a parent who's raising up these impressionable young people that are going through many different identity shifts and trying on many different clothes of who they are, it can sometimes be quite baffling as a parent because you're like, okay, on one hand, I hear these stories and I want to be delicate and affirming and supportive. On the other hand, I'm also quite aware that we go through many identity shifts, and that's also just a fact. How do I leave room for that? I don't want to pour concrete over something that was, a phase And that word I know has been used to hurt a lot of people, so I'm trying to use this very carefully, guys. But we're all grown-ups who listen to this show, and we have very strong members of the trans community, been on our show,
Yeah.
have told their tales, and they're all very, balanced-minded about this, like, hey, we get it. They're still kids. There's a lot of confusion.
And kids do go through phases.
Kids do go
and
through phases.
Cindy, I hear, I'm reading between the lines a little bit in some of your letter there. I don't want you to feel like you have to justify yourself to us and to other people, because I think you're doing a bit of that in the letter, or at least that's how I'm interpreting it. And that is by saying, my kid might just be going through a phase, but I am supportive of
You're a
trans
good
people and
parent.
trans rights and all this
Yeah.
stuff. I believe you.
You're a good parent.
And just
trying.
because you wonder, is this going to be my child's identity for the rest of their life?
Right.
That doesn't make you transphobic.
Yeah, and it doesn't make your husband transphobic either.
No.
That your husband is confused and alarmed and concerned. Those are loving gestures. Those are natural feelings.
By the way, I support you leaving the therapist.
Well, yeah.
Because that just seemed
That was odd.
I mean, the little
Yeah.
bit all we know is
Yeah.
what you just told us, but like that seems needlessly confrontational.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was a
I don't know that would have been my move. I mean, if I was in clinical staffing with that therapist, I'd ask some questions and want to know what their theory on that
Right.
was. And again,
Yeah.
they know the patient, right?
Right.
And so they may know, like, well, I know some other things, and this is why I'm coming from that angle. I understand.
Assuming that's actually all the facts, like I think you're doing fine there.
And I'll tell you that what a good move on this is going to be if it's, and I don't love working with pediatrics in part because I struggle with it sometimes, but if I'm in that
Spelling
chair, it's so hard. Is it an X at the end? I mean, there's that's really hard,
Pediatrics.
Wordle, man. It's the name of the game. But no, if I'm in that chair, I'm probably taking a position of, hey, kid, I support you and I care super about your mental health. We need to talk about suicidal ideation because this has been brought up in the letter. It's very significant. We want to be way ahead of this. And I'm just going to take the position of, hey, look, I want you in our space, in our relationship, to have the freedom in any moment to be who you are. How would you like me to call you? That's cool. That's how we're going to talk. And if you ever change your mind and want to be called something entirely different, you need to know you have this is where we draft, right?
Yeah.
Therapy is the place to write in pencil. It's the place to write in drafts. That's why it's a safe place. That's why it's private. So you don't have to apologize for nothing, and I'm not going to think any which way about you if you come in here and change your theory 3 different times. It's fine. That's where it's safe. So that would probably be the way I'd sit on the couch. And I think that I would probably take a non-directive role with identity stuff. I think I would give safe space to discuss it, to express, to explore. I'd be really careful not to try to push the child in any
Are
direction.
you talking as a therapist or parent?
As a therapist. Yeah, my role as a therapist in this would be very careful not to push in any direction. As a parent, I have to acknowledge that is a very different reality. It is your child. And I do believe in this concept that the parent has earned right to have an opinion. And as an earned
As
family
a parent,
member,
I think you get to push a little bit.
you're a stakeholder in this relationship. I think you're allowed the dignity of surprise. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think you do have to be very measured not to do harm in that relationship. I think you're allowed to ask questions. I think you're allowed to, I don't expect you to professionally, conceal your emotions the way a shrink can. You're too close to it. So I think you're supposed to be authentic without doing harm if you're the parent.
If your child says, "Mom, I'm trans,"
Yeah.
and you say, "Are you sure?"
You're not a bad
I
person.
don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
And they, and again, they're a teenager and they may go, back to their room and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's how you responded to this. And,
Yep.
and what's tough is there's an echo chamber in all cultures, right? There's an echo chamber in every single niche of the human climate. And unfortunately, there's an echo chamber that can exist at that teenage level where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they asked you, are you sure you're you're being abused? And so this
Right.
stuff gets really messy really fast. And I get as a parent how scary it can be. I love that you're looking for a therapist. That to me is the number one priority, not because I'm concerned about gender identity. Generally speaking, I trust humans to work through that in their time. And not because of the alcohol, though I agree finding an empty bottle is a cause for concern. My concern is the evidence of possible depression and the expression of suicidal ideation. That to me is my blinking red light that I'm like, holy smokes, let's get this kid talking to a therapist or a guidance counselor at school. Anybody that we can as soon as possible because we want to make sure they're safe.
Also, what do you guys think about this? Because finding the empty beer bottle at school. If I was doing things
In the bedroom.
in the bedroom. if I'm doing things that I genuinely don't want my parents to find out about,
They ain't gonna.
they're not going to find out about it.
That's a good point. Maybe there is kind of like I want you to see that I'm hurting.
Yeah,
You know.
and this could be a bit of that. I mean, that's just a thought.
Yeah, that could be.
But also to the writer, that was very responsive of you. That when your child came to you and said, "This is how my therapist responded to this, and I don't like it. I don't want to go to therapy anymore, and I'm thinking like self-harm thoughts." That was an expert move by you, the parent, to say, no. Now, if that's an independent therapist, then I guess you just have to go shopping. If that therapist is part of a group, I would say I'd like to speak to a leader and get a recommendation.
Yeah.
Because usually they'll say, "Hey, that's not a good match anymore. Let's place you with a different member of the group." But generally speaking, I think it's just good to get support. Now, I would also offer this, since you've acknowledged that your child also is bisexual and is going through gender stuff. I would also encourage you to look up. Oh gosh, I might need some web support on this from one of you guys, but there are like here in Las Vegas, we have the Alliance. We have there's an entire facility, and it's oh gosh,
The center?
The center. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have the center, and it is LGBTQ support. They have mentorship programs. They have programs for youth to be, in a safe place to talk. They have peer support that are trained for suicidal ideation because it's a known problem in the community. And so they are trying in healthy, safe, responsible ways to be there to create safe places. And so if that doesn't exist in your community, I would strongly advise doing research online, looking for some kind of outlet, some kind of safe community group. There's online groups that support this.
I was
A
going
lot
to say
of them
there
are
have
free.
to be online groups that
There
that do this work as well.
Absolutely. And there's going to be, a lot. I mean, that's one of the blessings, if there are any, of COVID, is that a lot of online groups that otherwise would have been local will now be available, on Zoom. And so that could be really healthy for your child, just to have one more thing, one more place to talk. And I realized as parents were like, "Oh, I'm scared about anybody that's going to influence my child. Like, what are they going to say? Are they going to be predatory? What is going to happen? What if they're grown-ups?" Listen, look into it, research it, figure out for yourself what's there, be a part of the whole thing. But I don't want to just, and you're not ignoring the child, but I want to be as proactive as we can. I want to surround the child with as many resources as possible. The relationship I want the parents to have to the kid is saying, "Hey, we love you. At the end of the day, we want you to be safe. We want you to be healthy. And you're struggling right now. So let's talk about talking to doctors. Let's talk about medicine. When a person's feeling like they want to hurt themselves, it's okay to get on medicine. Let's share the truth about why alcohol is not a medicine. But you know what? We once struggled with treating it like a medicine. Let's get you the help you need, and let's surround you with support." And my last point on this is safety planning. So, writer, I want you to get online. I want you to look up, adolescent, teenage depression, suicide safety plans, because there's going to be a lot of good suggestions on there about ways to kind of have conversations and make agreements with our teen to say, "Hey, you've told me the truth. Thank you for telling me the truth. I always want you to feel safe to tell me the truth. Let's sit down together with this template and let's agree together about when you would call for help, how to do that, how to talk to us, making sure it's clear you'll never be punished for telling us the truth. We're here for you. You can trust us not to overreact, but I want you to have something." And you can also call that old counselor and say, "Hey, this is where we're at. Can you at least give me these resources?" And even if you haven't talked to them in a while, that counselor's probably going to be like, "Yeah, let me at least forward you the resources." But we want to at least do that at a bare minimum, prioritize safety, and maybe see if you can privately have a conversation with a guidance counselor at school. Insist that the conversation is anonymous before you even share anything with them. Tell them they do not have your consent to approach the child. They do not have your consent to let that information leave the room, that you've come confidentially for information purposes only. Start with that, develop trust. And then when you feel like you can trust them, then you can take their advice and take their recommendations. But start with a lockdown privately. You might want to talk to your child first and be like, "Hey, I'm in over my head on some of this, but I love the hell out of you. Is it okay if I talk to the expert at your school to learn more, if I do that privately?" We don't want to embarrass them. We don't feel like they're on blast. I want them to feel seen if they're not ready to feel seen. So we want to do this with caution, but do this nonetheless, because we definitely want to attack from all angles here for safety's sake.
Yeah. Thanks for writing in. That
Big
was a
letter.
really good question.
Big letter. And, we're so grateful, by the way, Cindy, that you support the show. Thank you. Thank you for all the love that you've given us over the time. And we accept your letter in lieu of your video tribute for now until episode 300, at which time you owe us. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about depression breakdown. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, Leon Kassab, Newstick, Dirty B, and Sarah Smith. If you would like to sponsor the show, head on over to patreon.com/therapy and sign up to be a TheraProducer. This week's trivia theme, in honor of our TheraProducers, is the EU.
The European Union?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm already impressed.
Guys, I'm going to crush this. As long as it's not where shit is.
You are not going to crush this.
I'm really good at geopolitics. I don't know where things are, which is usually quite relevant to geopolitics.
Okay. Which of the following is not a member of the EU? A. Sweden. B. Norway. C. Latvia. D.
come on.
Slovenia. If you would like to join the TheraProducers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
All right. Can I
Trick
ask
question.
one
None of
question? Can I ask one question?
I'll allow it.
One free question.
Yes.
Will you allow this?
Yes.
Are they actually all countries? Yes or no? Is there a trick one in there that's not a real country?
Yes.
They are all real countries.
Latvia?
That's a lot.
Guys, I'm going to nail this. All right. I'm really good at geopolitics.
I said well,
Latvia's not a country.
I know what the European Union is. That's why they unionized, Nick. You don't have to know them by name anymore. I'm sure a lot of Europeans can't name every state. They just say the USA. That's what it's for. There's 50 of them. That's a lot.
Latvia, Slovenia. What were the other two?
Sweden and Norway.
All right, Sweden and Norway are the ones that are up in the Nordics.
Those are Scandinavian countries, I
No,
believe.
they're the
was what
Nordic
you're saying.
countries. It's where
Yeah.
the Nordic track comes
Sure.
from. All right, I'm gonna go with that Latvia one. That don't feel right.
All right.
I think I don't even feel. I mean, it's a real country, I'm told, but
I would bet. I feel like Slovakia.
Slovenia.
Oh, Slovenia.
Slovenia.
what was the
Because
other
we
one?
all know Slovakia is a member of the EU.
Right.
Yeah,
Naturally.
Naturally.
well, yeah. Didn't you see this hat I'm wearing?
Oh, Slovenia.
I always wear my Slovakia hat.
It says make Slovakia
Great again, yeah.
I mean, Slovenia probably isn't a member of the
Make
EU because
Slovenia
it's already
Slovakia
part. I mean, it's already a part of a U.S. state. I mean, it's Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Slovakia. So it's allied, but not
Right.
necessarily in the
I mean,
club.
it's a U.S. territory, I think.
How's Paul like it over there?
It's cold.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. All right, what are you going with?
I'll go with that. I'll go with Slovenia.
Okay. So wait, what did I pick? I picked,
You picked
the
Latvia.
Latka's one.
Latvia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
You're both wrong.
Well, I'll be damned.
Is it Sweden?
It's Norway.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Norway
Then
is
my-
not
then
a
my
member
second guess
of
wasn't
the
it either.
EU.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So there you go.
Wow. Well,
I was pretty sure that Sweden was.
Norway's holding out for a better deal.
And I was really kind of thinking, like, well, if Sweden is, Norway probably is too.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. Hang in there, Norway. Depression breakdown.
They seem to be doing fine.
They're doing
Yeah, they're
fine.
fine.
They got their shit together. Hello, you two beautiful people, and Jacob. Oh, no, that's not what it says. It says, hello, you two beautiful people, and hi, Jim.
Fair.
We
Thanks,
knew what it
writer. Discovered the show a few weeks ago and have listened to many episodes by now. Due to a recent event in my life, namely the separation from my long-term girlfriend, I have joined therapy and discovered many interesting things about myself. Since I was about 11 years old, the point at which my mother confessed to me that she is suffering from depression, my mood has significantly decreased. I am 23 now, and due to my depression being completely untreated because I am an arrogant moron, I recently suffered a complete breakdown in which I disassociated for about a month. I left my girlfriend, whom I had been with since the age of 15, and had been the only source of somewhat sufferable life up to that point, to move across the country to a woman I had met at a party a month prior. After living there for a little over a month, I sat there one day and felt like I woke up from a dream. I suddenly realized what I had done and tried everything to get back with my ex. I quickly moved back down into my mom's apartment and tried to work things out with my ex. To shorten this up, it didn't work out, and she has since moved to England for about half a year to focus on herself for a while. We write to each other every other day, and I am receiving signals from her that she wishes for the same thing that I am. that being a new start to our relationship, though she is rightfully keeping a safe emotional distance from me at this time. I know I probably shouldn't be chasing this, but hope is the only reason I am still alive. As in the moments I have lost hope in the past month, I was close to taking my life many times. I genuinely love her and want to be with her. Hell, the month before I left her, I was still looking for rings to propose to her. My therapist and I have discovered that I have somewhat of a helper syndrome. I don't express many things or feelings because I want to make the people around me the most comfortable possible, which has led to me not knowing who I even am. I feel like I don't possess a character. How do I find myself? P.S. Love your show. Thanks for the work you guys do, and happy holidays. Obviously, this one came from in December.
Did the writer say how old they are now?
25?
Okay.
I think. Yeah. Yeah, 25. No, I'm sorry, 23. I mean, they may be 25 now.
I believe it was
We've got a long
Latvia.
queue.
Yeah. No.
Well, okay, number one, I'm glad you already have a therapist.
Yes.
That's, because
Huge.
anytime we hear about, those thoughts of wanting to take your own life, that's
Gotta get into
something
help.
we need to address
Full
right
stop.
away.
Get to help.
So we can cross that off the list. We can assume that you're talking with your therapist about that. If you're not, then you encourage you to do so.
Yeah.
But so that out of the way, how do I find myself?
Which I like that you're asking that question, because like the writer tells this, obviously there's some big things here, right? There's really tough depression. There's this experience the writer talks about of dissociating for a month and feeling that they made decisions that weren't in alignment with who they were, which is interesting. And I'm sure you're discussing that with your therapist very carefully, which is the right place to do it. I won't speculate on it. I don't have enough information. But when the writer talks about, I have such a desire for my ex that I know I am wrong sizing their presence in my mind. I know I am.
That's some good insight.
It's
Cool.
huge.
Yeah.
To say like, look, I'm looking at this like it's do or die. I'm looking at this at my young age as if I blow this relationship, if I don't have this, what else is there to live for?
Yeah.
So I love that you're talking to a therapist, and I like that you're asking this question in particular, which is like, okay, I probably need to start doing some me stuff. I probably need to start thinking about who I am, not as the rescuer or helper of the ex, not as merely the partner of the ex. I need to be able to see myself as distinct from relationships, as having worth as a human, and being good enough all by myself. And I need to have a sense of identity and self. I love that you're asking these questions.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, the question is, like, how do I find myself? And a lot of times that's a difficult.
It is.
It's really difficult because, number one, it's hard to even. First, we have to define what that even means, because that can mean something completely different for different people.
Mm-hmm.
That could be, identity, but it could also mean like purpose. It could be that. It could be, having to do with what you give back to society, or what because we all have that need to give back, to feel like we're contributing to something. So it could be that as well. So maybe first starting to take a look at what is it that I'm actually looking for? When I say find myself, what am I really looking for?
Yeah.
I always kind of like the idea of starting first with your values, and just kind of like, what are the things that I value? And being able to list those off, and then kind of looking at, how do I display those values as opposed to just having them? How do I act those out?
Yes.
And are there other ways I could be doing that? Are there other ways I could be acting out these values or demonstrating these values? Because, we all say that we value, we don't all say this, but a lot of people will say that they value helping other people,
Sure.
or, being present for other people. And then
I have never said that.
No. In fact, he's more of an anti-hero on this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you value, Jacob? Anarchy. I just got to be honest. with you.
Bears?
Yeah. It's like
Ability to change tires?
tire changing. I love doing it.
But looking at, like, are there other ways I can be demonstrating these values? If I say I value people, when was the last time I actually did something for somebody else?
Am I being congruent with my
do
values?
I need to volunteer my time more to
Yes.
demonstrate this? Because sometimes I think that's kind of where people start to feel lost, is when they have values, but then they have, like you said, that incongruence with their behaviors, where it's like, I'm not demonstrating it. I haven't done anything to show that I value these things. And so you kind of start to lose some of that identity.
Yes. I like the idea too of an exercise that you might do with your therapist where you sit down and, the question you kind of ask out loud is, if I took a survey of the 10 closest people to you, what would they tell me about you? If I was filming a documentary about your life and I had to go to each of those people privately and I said, oh, tell me about Nick Tangeman. What's his story? What would they say about you? And I think that that's a really healthy exercise to do supervised because a lot of us have that mind reading cognitive distortion where we assume everybody don't like us or something like that. And so in a supervised fashion with a therapist correcting cognitive distortions, I would be interested in you kind of doing that kind of exercise where you sit down with a notepad and you make a list of 10 people that have mattered in your story thus far. And asking that question of how would each of them describe me? And they each know you from a different angle. A family member might know you in a certain way. And another person, your ex would say, very loving and very serious about the relationship and means well, or a friend would say, oh, charming and funny and affable and, genuine and kind-hearted. Just going through and finding those words, that I think that's a really important way to develop your character web and kind of sitting down and saying, this is partly who I am. I'm not only what other people see. There's a big portion of me that nobody sees. But it's important for me to see this too, because I'll obsess over the things that I don't like about me, or I'll think about my great mistakes, or I'll think about my challenges, and I can't see beyond that. I need those voices to call out from the other side of the wall and kind of tell me my truth, tell me who I am, speak, kindness to me. That I think is really important too, Ryder.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah. So I love that you're in therapy. That's the key. I mean, I like that you're taking it seriously. I love that in the face of scary thoughts and bad ideas that you got help. I like that you're becoming self-aware of mental health stuff. And it sounds like there might be some mental health stuff that you and your therapist are going to work on. Your therapist will make advice calls as far as medicines or things they think that you need to consider. The thing that I demand of you, though, Ryder, I demand that you understand at this age that you are at, that the world is so much bigger than the 25 years you have inhabited, okay? The world is so much bigger. Your story is so much bigger. Love is bigger than this one relationship. Friendship is bigger than the ones that you have now. Your journey, your adventure, your aspirations, the universe is so much bigger.
Yeah, and not to belittle the 25 years, that's very important, but I think what Jim's saying,
Right size it.
Yeah, because
distrust your impressions.
My first 25 years I would define as a foundation.
Yes.
But the greatest part has been, building on top of it, been everything that's happened since then.
You need to not lose sight of how big the horizon is, because we can get pinholed into these sad moments and sad complexities, or this current relationship. And right now it's all we hang our hat on. It's all we think we are. But the truth is, none of us is our worst moment. None of us is one decision. None of us is one bad month. Each of us, each human being, is a galaxy of contradictions and different values and different thoughts and growing ideas and development and evolution. You are not a finished person today. You are not a finished person tomorrow. And whatever happens in that relationship, however you feel, you must believe, because it is true, that the world and your life is bigger than you could possibly imagine. So when the delusion of depression tells you that you are screwed, that you need to give up, that it is all pointless, that it is all downhill from here, it is a lie. And that's why we call it a mental illness. That's why we scream through the cloud to you and beg you to believe us. It's not true. Don't believe it. Never give up. That's what I demand of you. As long as you're doing that, the rest is going to be okay. I believe that the relationship might work out or it might not, but I know you'll be okay. If you tell yourself the truth, you are going to be fine no matter what happens, as long as you do the next right thing. Keep it simple, Ryder, and thanks for writing in. Thanks for loving the show. Thanks for supporting us. And happy holidays to you, retroactively.
Yes.
Or the next set of holidays.
Or the next, there's always more coming around. Valentine's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, happy St. Patty's. That's fair. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about journal therapy. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Tzatziki
sauce.
Judy Schneider, Mason Miller, Leon Kassab, New Stick, Dirty B, and Sarah Smith all sponsor today's show. Thank you. Our second question, in honor of all those folks I just mentioned: which of the following is a member of the European Union? And they all are real countries.
Thank you. Thank you. That is appreciated.
I know. Which one is?
So the last one was who's not. It was Norway.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
A, Malta. B, Switzerland, C, Albania, or D, Belarus?
E, Norway.
If you'd like to join the Therapy Producers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy.
Malta, Belarus, Albania.
And Switzerland.
Oh God, wasn't Switzerland in the last list?
It
No.
was not.
Sweden was,
Oh.
which does indeed start with the same letter.
And they both make clocks.
And I believe is
knives.
my answer to this one.
You're going with Switzerland?
I'm going with the Swiss.
Isn't that the joke of Switzerland? Is like they're neutral all the time or something?
Oh, they are neutral in wars.
Swiss.
Yeah.
Is this the Swiss or the Swedish people? The Swiss.
No, those are the Swedes.
That makes more sense. In my defense, the
Guys,
Switzes.
guys.
The Switzes.
Guys, I know
shouldn't be the
geopolitics.
Swiss. Well, they do have their
I'm really glad that I did
cheese.
not claim to know who was in the European Union before this started.
All right, so you're locking down on Switzerland.
I'm going with Switzerland.
Albania, Belarus.
I'm not super confident in
and
that, but I'm going
Malta.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
Malta, I think, is kind of near the Italian Greek area.
Malta is my runner-up answer.
Yeah, I
That's
feel
my number
like
two.
Malta's in that zone.
And who
I didn't
does
know it was
number
a
two work
country.
for?
I thought it was a city. I thought Malta was a city in Greece.
No, Malta is an independent,
Nation.
sovereign nation. Yes.
All right, how
I don't think they're that big.
Are they part of perhaps
they're-
an alliance?
They're about the size of this studio.
Okay, okay. So
I don't think they're
so
huge,
yeah.
but they are a country.
Malta, Belarus, or Albania. Albania feels too Eastern European to me, so I don't think that's it. I think it would be part of like the Soviet bloc and therefore wouldn't immediately show up in the EU. Belarus feels like it's in there.
Well, Latvia was part of the Soviets, and they're part of the EU.
Shut up.
So your logic is completely
I'll bet
flawed.
you Belarus is somewhere between Belgium and Russia because the name.
Well, there's a lot
it's like
between
Texarkana,
Belgium and Russia.
you know? Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
So
I think it's
Germany, Poland, Belarus, Russia.
All right, thank you for that
going
because Belarus is
west
pretty
to
far
east.
out. So that's a little too close to Russia, I think, to be EU.
I believe they refer to that area as Eastern Europe.
I believe
That
they
feels
do.
about right.
Yeah.
Belarus and then Malta and then Albania. I'm going to go.
I got to tell you, I'm really comfortable not knowing the answer to this question.
You've already moved on.
Yep.
I'm going with Belarus. That feels right. It's too far east. I feel like Russia's losing its shit right now, trying to like get all up in Ukraine's business. And I think that has a lot to do with like not wanting European influence nearby. Belarus is not even as big as Ukraine, I assume. And so I feel like it would have been gobbled up if it was part of the EU.
Okay, so you're going with Belarus
Or maybe not. Maybe that's why
because you
getting
didn't
threatened.
understand the question.
What was the question? Who's not in the EU?
No.
No, who
Which
is
of the
in the EU?
following is a member
Oh,
of the EU?
crap. All right. I may have gone the wrong way.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. You know what? I'm going to stick with
I,
Belarus.
shit, you didn't let me get my sentence out. I was about to say I've got $5 that he stays with Belarus.
I'm going Belarus for the same reason, but shoe on the other foot. Maybe that's why it still exists.
Oh, I couldn't get it out in time.
Maybe it exists because it's in the EU.
I was sure that you were going to
Oh
stick
my
with
God.
And
Belarus
it's got
anyway.
like the group power to be like, hey, don't march on us because like then you're messing with the whole gang. Yes, give me Belarus. It's
All
probably
right.
part of the team.
I mean, what I know about the EU is not much. But
Okay.
one thing I know about the EU is that it's not really a military alliance.
Okay.
It's more of an economic alliance.
All right.
Which is why I'm okay with going with Switzerland.
But you've had two chances now, so you're done.
I'll stick to Belarus.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, no, you're sticking with Belarus.
Yeah. I've answered it both ways. I'm pretty invested in this one.
You are both 0 for 2.
Damn
Right,
it.
fine.
It is Malta.
Oh.
That was your second choice.
Yep.
So this one
So it's
is
Malta.
in the EU.
Yes.
Malta is in the EU.
is. None of the
Switzerland
other
is
ones
not.
are.
Albania is not. Belarus is not.
Yeah.
What's up with those Nordic countries just not playing ball?
Nordic.
What do you? Yeah, dude, Norway, Nordic, Norway.
Yes, who's the other one that you're talking to?
This one we just did. The Clockers.
Switzerland?
The
Those
Swiss?
guys. Yeah, they're Nordic too.
No, they're not.
They're not.
They're not.
No.
They're not one of those countries that looks like Florida.
No.
Okay.
Really?
At least I knew that.
Where are they?
They're south of Germany.
Yeah.
What? No. Are you serious?
Yeah.
No. No.
The Swiss language to my ear anyway sounds like a cheerful version of German.
Do you know
Yes.
what I
It's
think
very-
is beneath Germany? China.
You're wrong.
I'm like really wrong, or like it's real close to being
Different
right?
continent.
Like, yeah.
Whole different continent.
Mhm,
Like, you don't need a
mhm,
map. You could do that with a globe.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you're...
mhm, mhm. Okay.
you're
So off.
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just wrong.
Considerably off.
Yeah. Okay. So not very close. Ha. So Switzerland must have the mountains then, because that's the
Yes.
Yodeler guys.
They
right?
have
the
mountains
Alps.
that are indeed called the Swiss Alps.
That feels about right.
Yes.
Okay, because Germany has big mountains too. So maybe
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, okay, I follow this.
Huh.
They're adjacent.
Yes.
Kind of like
Oftentimes, people in Germany go skiing on the Swiss Alps.
this feels
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I accept all this. This feels right. So that's
Okay.
so interesting though.
I was really hoping we'd have your acceptance.
So the Nordic countries are Norway.
Well,
The one I think is
Scandinavian.
Switzerland,
I
but
think
is
when
not.
you say Nordic,
I think
that
you're trying to
typically
say
means
Scandinavian.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. How do those even sound the
Nordic,
same?
Nordic, I think, is specific to Norway.
Oh,
The Nordic people
Yeah,
are Norwegian.
kind of like the same
Yeah.
way that the Swedish are the
From what country?
Swedish.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying that right.
The country of Swedish?
Swedish.
What country does a Swedish person live in?
Oh hell, I just had it. It's not the clock.
It's not fair, guys.
It's not the.
It's not fair.
It's not the one with the Alps.
If
It's
I said,
Swisher.
if I said to you, Jim, I am
Swisherland.
Swedish.
Swisherland.
What country do I hail from? What would your answer be?
Swedishland. Sweden.
Hey!
Sweden was my final
Oh.
answer. I'm going
You,
with
can't, you cannot see the pride on his face
that.
right
Yeah,
now.
no, beaming. Okay, so the Nordic countries are Norway,
Norway, end of list.
Oh, the Scandinavian ones. The Florida of the North.
Finland, Norway, Sweden.
Okay, Finland. Oh, interesting.
The country
Huh.
where I'd like to be.
The Netherlands isn't one of those.
Well, they're north. I mean, they're really close. I mean,
Okay.
just across the sea
Yeah.
there.
They're on the continent.
Yeah,
though.
because that's just north of Germany.
Okay, got it. Dan is from the Netherlands.
Oh yeah.
I like Dan
Yeah.
on Instagram. Daniel by Night. He's awesome. Big supporter of the show. Big friend of the show.
Yeah.
Also part of Coffee with RJ every morning. He's
Yep.
the assistant and songwriter extraordinaire. Last question of the night. Journal therapy. Hi, guys. First off, big fan. Okay. So I have been hearing more and more about journal therapy and how wonderful it is, but is it really? Do it be like that? I had always been against therapy until the
Are
beginning.
you sure that's not right under Germany?
Is it though? I had always been against therapy until the beginning of 2020 when I tried BetterHelp because I had a discount code. I actually realized how much I needed it because of all the traumas and changes I've been through. Unfortunately, I had some unexpected life changes and I had to cancel my therapy because it was too expensive. And I've missed it terribly ever since. I was told that journal therapy could help me until I can afford an actual therapist. I'm a single mom of 2 kids. How do I get started with that? And what should I write about? Please help, Renee. P.S. You don't have to read this on the air if it's too long, but if you could at least email me back with some advice, that'd be appreciated. Yeah, we're just going to read it on the air, Renee.
Yep.
And also, long?
And
That's our
don't-
shortest question.
And Renee, don't feel bad because this is how Jim communicates with his mom too.
Yeah,
So
so,
you're
yeah.
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
equal
yeah.
par.
You're doing
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
He values you as much as he values
My
his own
mom
mother.
waits a week at a time to find
Yeah.
out why I was late to the
He didn't even communicate with his mom
Late
via
to
the main show.
recording.
Yeah.
He communicated with his mom via the paid section of the show.
To this minute, I've
What's
still
that?
never called her.
Put that shit behind the paywall.
Yeah, that's right. That's where you're. Patreon.com/therapy. You got to pay money to find out what I'm doing. So this is a good one.
Okay, so we've kind of talked about this before in the past. You had a recommendation for a journal that is available on Amazon, I believe.
There's a bunch. There's a lot of them. I like guided journals if you've
Yes.
never done it before.
So journaling, I think, can be very helpful if you've got a purpose behind
If you
what
know
you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just find it therapeutic just to write. I mean, just to
Yes.
write anything.
Take inventory of your life.
Yeah,
What's
and that's-
happening? Why do you feel what you feel?
That's perfectly fine to do it that way. Some people require kind of some assistance.
Yes.
And I think I'd fall more into that camp.
Yeah.
I would want something that's more guided.
Some prompts.
Yeah, something that's going to direct me what I should write on or what I should focus on. But it's very helpful because of a couple reasons, I believe. Number one, it slows your thought process down because, we can think way faster than we can write. So if we're having to write, we have to slow down our thoughts. we externalize them, and then we get to come back later and reread it
Yeah.
from an outside perspective, which is very enlightening sometimes.
Yes. Oh, it's huge. But also the catharsis and the emotional yoga
Mhm.
of sitting down, taking inventory of your truth, why you feel what you feel, what's going on in your life. It is the cleansing of the inner eye. And so, like, I'm a big fan of journaling as a general rule. I love it. I think you should definitely pursue it.
And I think paper pencil or paper pen
It's fine.
better than typing.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their way to get it out of them.
Mhm.
For me, I will, and I think I've talked about this in the show, I will use every method. So I've used pen and paper. I have a journal that I do pen and paper in. And that is when I really want to slow down my thoughts because I can't get my hand to write as fast as my brain is going.
Mhm.
And there's times when that's really important to me. There's times whenever I do typing, and that's usually whenever I'm feeling quite contemplative about something. And like I'll type because I do want the words to come out as fast as I'm thinking them. It's actually really helpful so I can flow with my thoughts a little bit faster. The other ways that I'll do it is audio. I'll just turn on a voice memo on my phone and I'll just go in my car. I'll take a drive and I'll just talk through it like I'm talking to a therapist. And then the last one is video. I've rarely done that in life, just because it takes up a ton of memory. It's just hard to do. So some people dig it. But no, I love this, Renee, and I'll strongly encourage you to do some form of therapy writing. I think that, guided journals, Amazon.com. There's a new title that one of my patients is using right now, and he seems to really like it. It's called I Am Fucking Brilliant. Or no, it's called I Am Fucking Radiant. That's it. And I love it. He's a dude, and like I told him I want you to go get a guided journal because I was really trying to help him crack into some emotions that he was maybe, not doing a great job of seeing. And so then he shows me, he holds this thing up and it says, I am fucking radiant. And I was like, that is fantastic for you. And he's like, thank you. He's like, I selected it because it just like dared me to do this. And so he loves it. And it's a great way to kind of keep track. But that's the purpose of journaling, and I think that if you find yourself staring at a blank page and being intimidated by it, guided journals are probably your better bet. That's probably going to point you in a better direction. You might need that structure. Go to Amazon, go to any Google, and just type in guided journals.
Mhm.
They're usually not shy about showing you the prompts. and giving
Sometimes
you an
they'll
idea.
even have guided journals for specific issues too.
They do, yeah. And for sometimes you find that that's a really, really helpful thing.
Yeah.
But this is a great thing, and I'll tell you, I teased this during our New Year's episode. We were setting our SMART goals. I think I talked about it on the Patreon. I don't think I talked about it on the big show. But I am all in trying to develop my year goal project. My goal for the year is to develop something, because I keep getting letters like this. People that say, hey, I can't afford a therapist. I can't find one. But I want tools. I want resources. And so I'm trying to create basically a website that has like courses and like techniques and skills and basically all the stuff that we're doing in therapy just put into a user-friendly format that people can access, know what they're hearing about, learn, like watch videos that go along with it. And ultimately, like, my idea was like merit badges, like they win like mental health merit badges for completing each challenge, which is still, kind of my driving idea. But even this guided journaling, one of the things I want, I don't know how I'm going to structure this yet. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but I imagine it's like a thing that you're part of, like a community, like a membership. And I may be wanting to call it the gym membership. So that's earmark, holding on to that name. Already own the URL. Pretty excited about maybe using that. Spelled just like it sounds. But one of the things I was thinking about is...
GYM?
Yes. One of the things I was thinking about is it would be cool to have daily prompts that would be part of the membership is like journaling prompts, because that's exactly one of the things people talk about all the time. But it'd be neat to be all doing it together. Everybody that's in the club or whatever is doing that, and there's discussion areas. So anyway, but you can also sign up for that online. You can sign up for daily journaling prompts. Those exist. That absolutely is another resource. But Renee, I love that you're doing this work. I love that your mind changed about therapy. Look at you, Renee. Before 2020, you thought it was a joke. Now you listen to a podcast about it, which you probably still think is a joke. But at least sometimes you think it's helpful.
I mean, the podcast is definitely a joke.
Yes, but therapy has no reflection. We have no reflection upon the institution of therapy.
Right.
Yeah. Remember, therapy's better than pod therapy. But glad for the letter, and good luck on your hunt. If you are a friend of the show and you're doing journaling on your own, you have guided journals, Feel free to comment. Patreon.com/therapy is usually where the conversation ends up. A lot of people don't know this, but you can also go to podtherapy.net and you can just comment on any episode. Our website is designed as a Tumblr, and so people can just comment or like or retweet it basically inside the Tumblr universe.
I didn't know that. Hold
It
on.
is.
I
It's a
didn't either.
Tumblr. So if you ever want to
Just have
comment on
some things to
episodes,
comment on.
you can go to podtherapy.net, share your thoughts. Usually the conversation tends to be at patreon.com/therapy. That's where there usually is a dialogue among patrons about the show and giving each other advice. So,
Yep.
But if you have ideas, feel free to share because we always want to take good resources and pass them around. All right, we've reached the end of the show, and we have a lot of folks to thank as we kind of launch into the beginning of a new month.
Happy February.
Happy February. So we want to thank all the theropods who are with us. Thank you, Dan Martin, Kate Keller, Scoop Chernot, Corey Owens, Linda Brandmeier, Lori Eltzroth, Brad Kefauver, Christine Phillips, Joseph Pangrazio, Tracy Raplogal, a.k.a. my mom, Gavin Bristow, Carrie Terhark, Eric, a.k.a. Nick's sister, Stacy Westerlin, Richard Bruin, Scoopy, Jess, Ian Whitefall, Chelsea Saracen, Craig Little, Curtis Kiwi
great.
Scoop, damn it, Curtis Kiwi Fruit Scoop, Hanlon. Nailed it. James Katie Chiwakowski, Don Dorr, Jim Hunter, Adam Rabiznik, spelled just like it sounds, Brooks Lyle, Okie Scoop, Jeffrey Ackerman, Matthew Nayer, Three Scoops a Lady, Todd Canfield, David Sorensen, Felicia Butler, Chelsea Lamb, Shayla Bullock, Scoopatron, Lauren Izzo, Stacy Coleman, I Have the Knack, Adam Petanuzzo, Lauren, Mats Lenegren, Polygon, Heather, Take It EV Podcast, Sustainable Transportation for All, Ulrika, Ian Soto, Jessica Cyphers, Andrew Langmead, Charlie Quinn Starling, Natalie MC, that Josh guy, Kernapillar, Leventi Baggy, Dr. Scoop Little, Mama Ninja Scoop, James Dawson, Colson Morrow, Jacob Harrington, Sean Daughtry, I feel like it's Daughtry, Amanda H., Grumpy Lake Mead Park Ranger, Sarah Olo, Brian Emra, John Hanfelder, Kiana Sambuck, Megan Smith, Musa, Scoop NATO Bait, Kate, Chris the Scoopless, What Weekend, Ethan Livne, Michael Madanat, nailed it, Some Nobody.
And thank you to our pterodactyls, Ice Blue Scoop, Brian Lehman, Scott Brady, Fred Bashara Jr., Andrea Anderson, Lindsay Bashara, Robert Paulson, Tess Miller, Slurpy Kaye Motherfucker, Frozen Cusser, Angie Ellis, Ryan Stewart, Scott Ashlock, Robert Ward, Chris, Sandra McWaffle, McAuliffe, Cy Shonigan, Not a Scoop, Solo Cody, Stephen L. Proctor, TKO, and Dank Butta.
That dank butter. And we especially want to thank our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club. We're talking about them producers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, King of Student Loan Debt, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain, Malaya, Richard Macy, Cindy Ash, Newstick, First of Name, Breather Fire, Dumb of Ass, Lord Colin Stewart, Dirty B, Ben Stanley, Sammy Scoop, and Sarah Smith.
And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you for supporting mental health.
That is all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share the episode with someone who needs it. Open that episode's description in your podcast app and copy and paste that link we provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook.com/PodTherapy, on Instagram at PodTherapyGuys, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and at Patreon.com/therapy.
Do something positive for yourself. Submit a question to the show.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you. You can do it anonymously at podtherapy.net, or you can email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for appointment next week.
Oh, Latvia, you are not Switzerland. You are not in the you are in the EU,
Yeah.
as you should be. To
Name
provide
one other
for-
fact about Latvia.
They are in the United Nations.
One.
I hope.
I got you
One
there.
would think.
I got you there.
I'm asking, are you sure?
I feel pretty confident about
All
it
right.
since they're already in the EU.
I'm going
To
to take
the
that as a
internet,
no.
Missing,
I'm going to take that as a no. He's
missing
not
the
sure.
party if they're not. Right? Aren't all the countries in the United Nations?
No, definitely not.
No.
Oh. Well,
That's why there are
seems
countries that
dumb.
like, petition to join the United Nations and emergency membership and blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, Latvia,
They
if
might
you're
be.
not part of the UN, get your shit together. I feel like this is your invitation.
Get vaccinated,
Get
Latvia.
vaccinated. Bye, patrons.
Bye.